Practice time.
Settle up or settle down. Feeling good until it comes round. The alarm bells hear the sound. 1, 2, 3, 4 times 100. Morning fire begins to turn. Sour days are cinders burning. Keep me warm at least but can't. Instead spread mess with the ashes. Thought that I'd dissolve, thought that I'd disappear. But I wake up in bed the next day, I'm still here. At times it doesn't seem so bad. Then bubbles up just like an effervescent flute. Had nothing I can say or do, so it seems too tight to see if it's true. My responsibility, but how to try when I can't see the wood for the trees. Lay down on the forest floor, take a breath, closing eyes forevermore. Thought that I'd dissolve, thought that I'd disappear. But I wake up in bed the next day, I'm still here. Thought that it was time, that the end was in sight. But the wheel keeps on turning beyond wrong and right. Living in a question mark. Time is stumbling in the dark, waiting to complete the arc. This story blows. Who's the writer? More than just to sleep and eat. Again, again, repeat, repeat. What happened to a short and sweet? This one seems never end.
Okay, my boss lines are on. Is it because I have a pet? That might be why. Yep, it's because I have a pet. Okay, so this here is about a 10-minute fight. Razorgore. We're gonna split into 4 groups. Group 1 and 2, you're gonna be down on the close left corner. Groups 3 and 4, you're gonna be on the far left. Groups 5 and 6, you're gonna be on the close right. Groups 7 and 8, you're gonna be on the far right. We're gonna have the melee stack for each of those corners where the mobs spawn, and the range and casters. Whoa. Range and casters, you're gonna stack around the middle. I don't know how that happened. Should reset here shortly. So yeah, and then since you're in the middle, you'll be able to jig back and forth between each side to go where DPS is needed. So the person on the orb, they get a 1-minute debuff as soon as they use the orb, and that's about enough time to pop 9 eggs. There's about a 10-second cooldown every time you do your casting spell to pop the egg. So about after 9, then you want to re-click on the orb to gain control of Razorgore again. You definitely want your main tank to pop the last set of eggs because he's going to get aggro on Razorgore for the rest of the fight. Razorgore is a lot like the Uber's boss, General Dracasath. He does the same abilities, War Stomp, Conflagrate, Cleave, but he also has a new ability of Fireball. So here is the Destroy Egg ability, number 2. It's a little bit different here in Retail. It has no cast time and no cooldown. In Classic, it'll have about a 5-second cast time and a 10-second cooldown. So it'll have 5 seconds or so to get to the next mob, that next egg, to destroy it. It's best to destroy these far eggs last, because that gives you a lot of time to pick up the boss. So there's 9. Boom. Mind control. We'll also have a Shadow Priest on the assist, in case for whatever reason one of the mobs makes it up to the mind control guy. Then the Shadow Priest can put fears on them, and also put a powered shield on our mind controller. I'm just going through every 9 or so, trying to get the pattern down as to where you want to release Razor Gore on that 9th egg, because after it also has a duration of 90 seconds. So 9 eggs means you'll have 10 seconds left on your duration. So here's the final one. At this point, we'll call a collapse, and everyone's gonna move, stack on star, and pop your fades. As you're moving over here, you can polymorph, sleep, fear stuff, but you want to stack in this corner, and we're gonna have the main tank pick up Razor Gore, tank him right in the middle. If you're at about half health, I advise don't get in Razor Gore's line of sight. His new ability that's different from Uber's is the AoE Fireball. I'm going to go ahead and summon my pet. Here we go. What's this? Ooh, careful. Can I taunt him? Oh, well. Okay. He was not on passive. So I wanted the tank to stand right about here. So when the first tank gets conflagrated, they'll go aggro, will swap to the second target highest on the list, just like the Uber's boss. So you need to stay below the second tank in threat. It's not really a DPS race, it's a long 10-minute endurance race, and the first phase is the hardest phase. If we get into the second phase, everyone should be able to bandage, and the healers just need to keep the 2 tanks alive, or whoever's taking aggro. So let's see if we attack the technicians, if that gets us a chance at, what do you call them? Elementium ore.
Now he shall serve me by slaughtering you. Get up, little red worm, and destroy them.
Some people say you can get Elementium ore if you kill these. Well, you get Hourglass Sand, so that's just as important. You need lots of Hourglass Sand for Razor Gore. Not Razor Gore, Cro-Mag. This is another threat management fight. It's very important to have your details or classic threat meter updated. So as a range stack, we're all going to stand in one place in the back of the room here. When this fight starts, everybody starts taking pulsing fire damage, which also gives everybody infinite rage, mana, and energy. Of course, for rogues, you can backstab infinitely, and definitely use your feint to stay low on your threat meters. You also want to have warriors use cleaves, not heroic strikes, so that you're generating less threat and you can go off when the execute phase comes, because this guy starts at 30% life. You get execute phase really quickly. For the melee group, you want to make sure you stack right on his back leg. He's going to stand up and he'll be in a little bit different position, so probably about right here. If you get too close to his front, you'll chain a cleave. Cleave works differently than other bosses and monsters, and that chain cleave, he'll cleave the tank, he'll cleave you, and then off of you it cleaves another time and kills all the melee, and that'll be a wipe. For the off tanks, they're going to stand on the other side, so that if we have trouble doing a tank swap, or the tank doesn't get healed, they can just face Veilstraw's back over. That way the raid is only getting hit by a tail swipe and not a fire breath if something bad like that happens. The tank's going to be standing right about here. I'm going to go ahead and start it. We're going to have the tank right about here, facing the guy towards him. Probably the tank probably just go ahead and pop Recklessness on the pull, and maybe make sure the healers know if you pop Death Wish too. So, one mechanic that we didn't talk about was the bomb debuff. You'll turn dark red, and when you do, you need to immediately get out of the raid and go to his tail. If you don't, you'll blow up the entire raid. What you want to do is blow up over here. It also gives casters instant cast time, so you can cast spells for 20 seconds or something until you die and blow up like the Baron Geddon bomb. Why is he attacking? Don't attack. You're passive. No, you're passive, dude. You can't get him to stay passive. Yeah. It's a bad tank. On to the next part. These are the tougher packs, the Dragonkin. They got 6 Dragonkin in each group. We're gonna tank 3 of them, kite the Scalebanes because they enrage, and we're gonna sleep the the Wormkins. So here we go. This group, we're going to kite the 2 Seethers. Let's see. These 2 guys get kited. These 2 Flame Scales are going to be tanked over here in the right. And the Death Talon Captain, he's going to be tanked over here in the far side. So all the raid is going to be stacked over here, killing these 2 Flame Scales super quickly. Then I said the Wormkin. Wormkin needs to be slept by a Druid. And the problem with this is you just got to spam sleep until the captain gets out of there, because the captain is dealing damage to other people around them. They can't be sleeped while they're like that. And the reason why we have the hunters kite the Seethers is because they have a frenzy on them. So we'll go ahead and see this. Okay. I don't know why that works that way. That's the Flame Scales that do a knock-up. Let's see if I can figure out. Why are they all attacking me? Don't know. Anyways, we'll bring the Flame Scales over here. Kill them first. They got a knock-up. Then the Wormkin gets slept. Seethers get pulled away. And then after the Flame Scales, we kill the captain. It's a really tough pack, and it needs to be taken seriously, or it can end up, this trash can wipe the raid. So same thing for this pack. We tank the captain and 2 Flame Scales, kill the Flame Scales first, then the captain. The Seethers will be kited, and the Wormkin will be slept. That's the trash after Veil before the suppression room. Okay, so now for the second hardest boss, the suppression room. This thing sucks because they respawn super fast. What we'll try and do is have a warrior pick up any kind of whelps that they can. The rogues, you gotta use your suppression device. So we'll assign, say, 1 rogue goes to the raid, and the rest of the rogues go in a line to get the suppression devices. The taskmasters, you can polymorph them and crowd control a single guy to kill him. The Death Talon Hatchers, they do a flame strike. You really don't want to pull more than 1 of these at a time. You can feign death if you accidentally do pull one. How I'd like to go at the start is once you pull Let's see if I can figure out how to pull one of them without killing it. Okay, so I got him. Do a non-vanilla thing, and I'd like you to bring the Death Talon Hatchers and the orcs down here. The rest of the raid will kind of be waiting around this doorway area. They don't have to be stacked in right inside of it. They can be right outside of it. You want to single target down the Hatchers. Don't use any kind of AoE abilities because the tanks need to pick up the whelps. The tanks, we could. I don't know if we want to have the tanks up there and a healer with them, or just have the tank back here with the raid. It's tough. So once we get a few of them, we'll probably have to move the raid up and start clearing the back half of the room. We could try and pull the back half forward. It's kind of tough there. Let's see. Alright, there you can see there's 3 more Dragonkin up there. You definitely want to pull at least one more of these Dragonkin before you get going. And if you pull Dragonkin with the orcs, you can polymorph all the orcs. So once we get ready to go, we'll just head along the suppression line, make sure the rogues have all the devices disabled. May end up killing an elite along the way. Got to use single target DPS because we want these whelps to all stay on the tank. And then once we get through the room into the safe spot, we'll AoE down the whelps. Or if we have the healers that are low on mana, we'll have to AoE the whelps and then drink. And then just move forward as fast as we can. Maybe even just get a tick of drinking in and then move forward. So here's the best spot, I think. It's right here. You only have this one suppression device to deal with. You gotta assign whatever rogue is with the raid, always has to pop down this suppression device for the next 5-10 minutes. So since I killed the whelps, they're starting to respawn. They got really fast, a few seconds on their respawn times. What we'll do again is pull all the orcs and dragons back, and then have a tank pick up the whelps. Just kind of stand out, like right here, wherever. Just stand away from the raid. Boom. Alright, so we killed all the whelps. I'm a rogue, I'm disabling devices so that the hunters can shoot the dragons. And I'm also a warrior. I'm taking the whelps, and as a DPS, I'm not killing the whelps until it's called out. So the next boss is Lashlayer. He has a threat drop on the tank. It's a huge chunk of a percentage whenever he knocks back the tank and drops threat on him. He also does a Mortal Strike, which healers have to look out for. And he will also do a Blast Wave, which melee need to look out for. So, in order to get to him, you have to get past the Suppression Room. The Suppression Room is a harder boss than Broodlord. Again, you really have to pay attention to threat on this boss because he's untauntable, and if you ever go above the second tank, you'll end up pulling the boss, and the boss will cleave and blast wave inside of the raid, making it near impossible for the healers to recover from. They'll need to pop some serious dark rooms and major mana potions in order to survive that kind of fuck up. What we'll do is probably have the raid stand around the gate, and we'll disable this one suppression device over here on the right side. Just a quick mention, we can use these cubbies to hide. This will be the final resting point at this suppression. I think, yeah, we got to get this suppression gate down. I could use a cheat mechanic, but it's okay. It's a very large range on popping down these suppression devices. They also have a random time, it looks like, that they may go down or up. So the raid will group up in this corner here. This should be close enough to Broodlord Lashslayer to get there within 30 seconds, and it should be far enough away from the boss that we won't body pull it. Let's see if I can get better view. There we go. That's a little bit better. So we're gonna get these two devices down. Hopefully this one does not pull the boss. May or may not. We'll just get ready in case it does, you know. Get mana full, kill all the whelps, string to full. Shouldn't be doing any kind of rebuffing. It's only a 10-minute suppression room or from the safe spot to here. Otherwise the other elites are going to respawn. So we'll just call, alright everybody, if you're not ready, use a mana potion. We're going to kill the whelps. Drink real fast. Tanks gather up any whelps that respawn. Let's see, does this pull the boss? No. I guess I could mention about the trash. The hatchers, they can be counterspelled. It's really helpful for bringing them back if you can counterspell them. So we'll say, okay, disable this last suppression device and let's go. So on the pull, have the tank pick up all these whelps before they move out, and have a rogue stand in position getting ready to pop this. So as the tank, you'll pull the boss over here. So let's see if I can taunt him.
None of your kind
There we go. So you stay. No. Don't. Okay, stay. Stay. Okay, I got the suppression device up again. So here, Broodlord is probably going to hit me with his blast wave. There he is. He got knocked back. That's bad. My pet got mortal stricken. Does my pet have some kind of reflect damage? It does. I need to get rid of that pet. It's this Molten Hide. He's dealing damage back. So he's probably going to kill the boss. Let's just dismiss him. Okay, give me a different pet. Alright, you taunt him, pet? Nope, that was not it. That was the one boss I really wanted to check with a pet. So I can see his blast wave. It's alright. I'll clear out the suppression room, and we can start on trash packs. I don't know if there's really much point to clearing all the suppression room. When it's not live, it's just a practice. So imagine the back half is cleared. What we'll do here is we're going to have a hunter will start off aim shotting the warlock. And actually I was listening to Skarm talking about doing a countdown. So it means you'll do a pull timer, and depending on what kind of spell you're casting, if it's like a 2.5 second or a 3 second spell or 1.5 second spell, you start the spell so that as soon as the pull timer is at 0, the spell fires off. So for a warlock, you have a 2.5 second shadow bolt. You want to start your shadow bolt in between the 3 and 2 second countdown, so that you get a Shadow Bolt off at 0, and then you can start your next Shadow Bolt right at 0. And that way the Warlocks will be at about half health as soon as they reach the melee. I guess another thing to note about this gate is it's pretty easy once Broodlord's killed for these pieces of trash to be pulled onto the raid. So you have to pretty much as soon as Broodlord dies, move into this alcove. So we're gonna try and shoot these Warlocks and bring whoever does the very first attack, I guess at 0. Maybe the hunter needs to do it at 1, so it's a little bit sooner. But we're gonna go ahead and have my pet attack it. Boom. So then it'll. Ooh, no. Why is he doing that? Okay. Stand there. So it'll group up all the technicians. We're gonna have some kind of mage with a arcane explosion and max threat on it, because there's most mages pick up reduced arcane threat. And they'll run around in a circle here, not get hit by grenades hopefully, and they'll aggro the techs off of all the different. Oh, here I can just use this guy. Pretend this guy is. Oh, okay. Now they're aggro to me. Okay. So it does look like they're hive. Can this guy taunt? This guy taunts this guy. Does this guy? What does this guy do? Huh. I haven't been able to successfully taunt and not kill. Growl does an attack. Thinking if I can tame a pet or something. It might be lower level. No, it will automatically level up, won't it? This is retail. Okay. So that was the Warlocks and the Technicians. The other two pieces of trash in the room are the Spellbinder, which does a Flame Strike, and the Death Talon Overseer, which does a Cleave and has a spell weakness. So this guy is damage taken from all other magic decreased, but his fire damage is increased. So we'll assign 5 people in the raid, 1 for each elemental type, and they'll test by using a wand or a low rank spell to see each of these Death Talon Overseers and the Death Talon Wormguard's spell weaknesses. So again, for this pack, we'll have a hunter or a tank pull the Spellbinders, and they can just pull them all the way back. Pull all the way back to the end of the suppression room. You have all this space to work with. Let's use that. We'll have the see, is this? Let's do this pack first. We'll do this pack first, I think. So. So you assign. Let's go. X. I'm not gonna have people running. No, he's not X. He's not. He's the kite. He's the X. So you can't really do what Scarn was talking about pre-casting, because you'll just end up pulling Fire Maw. I think you'll just end up pulling him. Yeah. I don't really want people going this far into the room. This will just end in disaster. Here comes Fire Maw back again. Let's see where his end of patrol pad is. So we got 1 tank on the Overseer, 1 tank on each Warlock, and a Hunter, and perhaps even a tank on the Spellbinder. The Spellbinders are immune to magic. That's why we have a Hunter on it. So right about here. Huh. So basically anybody that's in the room beyond this alchemy lab is going to pull it, I feel like. If you pull it, it puts the entire raid into combat. And if we pull it and it wipes, that means clearing the entire bottom floor suppression room, because that's all up again. Okay, so we'll have the hunters pull back the spellbinders, run back into this room, have the tanks pick up their targets, melee just single target down your stuff, and then we have a sacrificial mage that will kill off the technicians by spamming Arcane Explosion. Let's see if he can taunt Rukmar. It's impossible. So these guys also do a poison attack. If you get too close, it looks like. Just gotta kind of stand. Oh. Oh no. What happened to me? They're not doing melee, they're just using their... So if I look at... Boom, I have them packed really tightly. Anyways, the caster should be AoEing this, and the melee deal with the warlocks. And the melee should probably, after they kill the warlocks, finish off the spellbinder and then the Draconid. There's one more pack before we get into Fire Maul. Tanks just interrupt and DPS down the warlocks. Any shaman can try and earth shock the warlocks, but I don't know if they are actually interruptible. So Fire Maul is an easier boss. He does a lot of raid-wide fire damage, but it's easy to avoid it because you can use these pillars to line of sight the flame buffet. He also does a wing buffet, which reduces aggro on the tank by a large amount. He also has a shadow flame, so the tanks need to put on their Onyxia scale cloaks. If they don't, they will be dead. It's also important that Fire Maul never faces the raid or changes positioning, or the raid could take a shadow flame, and if they are unprepared without their cloaks, then they will be killed by the shadow flame debuff. So this fight has a tricky taunt swap. It's best to have 3 tanks here, 2 that will be going back and forth dropping aggro, and a 3rd that's just there who can pick up the slack if need be. You can use good fire resist here as a tank and completely avoid the flame buffet with high enough fire resist. So there may not need to be a tank swap besides for the wing buffet part. Usually what you would do if you want to run full threat gear and not full fire resist is you'd have the main tank hold him until wing buffet is about 5 seconds from casting. Then the off tank will taunt him, and then as soon as that taunt is done, the main tank will taunt the boss back. That will mean that the main tank has approximately the same aggro as the off tank, and the main tank currently has threat, so he will get hit by the wing buffet, and that will drop his threat and allow him to run out. Then at that point the off tank has the most threat on it, and he can tank for a while until the main tank's threat has dropped. So it does his taunt does work at some range. It's interesting. Alright, get over here, pet. There he goes. Nope, there we go. Right, now I stop Flame Buffet? Yeah, that's good. Let's see, I'm trying to get the boss closer into a position where he would be. That's approximately where he'd be. So let's say my pet is the tank. I'm not able to heal my pet. I'm gonna wait for my debuff to go down. There's the wing buffet timer. Huh. I couldn't heal it, but now I can. Interesting. I wonder if I can attack it from right here. No, it's not in line of sight. That's good. Okay, so that's pretty much Fireball. He's fairly easy once you can figure out how to tank swap. Oh, I wanted to check this line of sight on the Alchemy Lab. Some private server said that you can... No, you can't do that. It's impossible. I mean, you can do it here, but that's because this geometry is doing it. The Alchemy Lab is shoot through. Wait. No, there we go. Okay. Yep. Yeah. That's not WoW Classic. Excellent. Next trash pack, we'll need the main tank that's on Death Talon Wormguard to use a free action potion. Probably have all the tanks pop one so that they don't get stunned accidentally. So if I say throw my guy in here, we'll see how when the War Stomp goes off. He's supposed to have a War Stomp that you need to use free action potions for to make it a lot easier. May even end up using the free actions on Molten Core in the future. So here we got some more tech packs, lab packs. Got to pull them back and group up the technicians, as well as grabbing out the overseers and spellbinders. So if I say get this guy, bring him back here, line of sight, the AoE shadow bolts. There's a text, there's a tanks. Just pick up everything, and you can keep kiting the spellbinder. We could do the Death Talon Overseer as a kite, but it's much easier to have a hunter do just the spellbinder instead of the overseer. As a tank, you can pretty much tank the spellbinder, I guess, and fire resist, or you can just move out of the flame strike as it's being cast. It's not too hard to avoid that. So here we see the warlock portals being summoned. If you don't kill the warlocks fast enough, they will summon a Felguard. Ooh, that's a good item. So let's see the Felguard real quick. That's also one of the reasons you don't want to pull the packs back too far, is it gives you more time to fight Felguards. On these packs up here, it's most likely you will end up fighting a Felguard, just because it takes a little bit of time for the warlocks to get into position. Let's see, let's say probably this pack before. Is he leveled? Oh, he's 62 and he's 61. I mean, you could have your pet just come up here, go attack him once, boom, and then everything is on the hunter, which it'll be right here. So the tanks need to pick up the overseers. The hunter takes the spellbinder, or maybe a different hunter, maybe a different hunter or a tank. I would probably put a hunter and a tank on a spellbinder. Maybe like our druid, because the spellbinder can polymorph. Probably like Laris and T-Bendis. Okay. So if I wanted to, can I do Eyes of the Beast? Aspect of the Turtle. Eagle Eye. Oh, okay, well, I can use this. Go attack him. Boop. Okay, come on back. Yeah, so Mage picks up those. Tanks taunt and mocking blow the warlocks, and another hunter or tank picks up the spellbinder. So that's all the lab packs but this final one. So once we get those two, we'll have the raid move up. We can get ready to do Ebengor.
I'm out of range.
Oh, Ebon Rock, not Ebengor. Here's another tougher pack. All these guys just hit a lot harder. This guy, Crix, he can also teach you smelting. They still have their weaknesses, so just call it out on voice once you figure out what the weakness is. Yeah, not too difficult. So for Ebon Rock, probably have most of the raids stand here or maybe under here. Solidly seems correct. And here, yeah, seems about right. You won't get Shadow Breath if you stand here. If you think you will get Shadow Breath, or you are a tank, you need to put on your Nyxia Scale Cloaks, or you're gonna be dead. Lose all your consumables, a higher repair bill. Ebon Rock is not really a threat fight, it's a taunting fight. So it's on the main tanks to make sure they taunt as soon as Ebon Rock uses Wing Buffet. As a DPS, if you get some lucky crits or Wind Fury, you need to stop DPS. Ebon Rock doesn't have an enrage. We're not fighting an enrage timer. He does have the Wing Buffet, which drops the main target's threat by a large amount. The reason why we have 3 tanks is in case Ebon Rock Wing Buffets one tank that doesn't have the debuff, and he ends up on another tank that does have the debuff that heals Ebon Rock, the 3rd tank can taunt it. Generally, we have all 3 set up in a corner so that Shadow Flame only will hit one at a time, is Shadow Flame Breath. So, let's see if I can maybe use my pet to demonstrate. So there, come on pet, this is going to be impossible. It's best just to use the boss. Don't have any abilities. No, this is going to one-shot him. I already know that. Okay, there we go. So pull the dragon down here. The raid kind of waits over in the corner. Boom. Shadow over Ebon Rock. There's the debuff. At that point, the tank needs to taunt off. And then they'll be facing one of these other directions. So here's one direction. You gotta make sure that the raid isn't getting hit. So here comes a Wing Buffet. Boom, knocked up. So it might go back on another guy. there's a debuff, so then somebody else needs to taunt. So it should be in this corner. The other two tanks that are on the side won't be getting hit by the Shadow Breath. Here goes Wing Buffet. It's coming out pretty quickly. But basically, as a DPS, you need to keep your eyes on the threat meter and your hand over the limited invulnerability potion, not over your DPS buttons. It doesn't really have much else than that. The breath and the Wing Buffet. Okay, let me make sure I don't delete my bow. So Flame Gore is pretty much a loot pinata. We have a Trank Shot rotation, and we tank them in the same spot we tanked Ebon Rock in. Can I? Doesn't work either. Just want a light. Does this work? Oh, counter shot. Oh. Almost one shot him. So you pull him down here, and you do the same Wing Buffet taunt that you would use for other bosses. Theirs is Enrage. I'm not being a good hunter right now by stopping it. Is it Shift W maybe? No. Oh, I know what it is. Not all hunters have Soothe anymore. I have to have a special pet to use Soothe. I don't have a soothing pet out. So how the taunt rotation works here is the off-tank taunts to take the Wing Buffet, and the main tank just stays at the top of the threat. As soon as the off-tank gets Wing Buffeted, then the main tank will taunt. Won't need to taunt back because he will have the most threat. As long as the off-tank gets hit by every Wing Buffet, then it's pretty much a loot pinata, and he has to get his Frenzy, Enrage, Tranquilize Shot. As DPS, just make sure you stay below the tank so you don't Shadow Flame the raid. Gonna move on to Cro-Magus here in a second. Here are another 3 guys. This trash pack, you just gotta watch the tanks that are getting stunned. So if, for example, you're a Frost Mage and you see your weakened Frost guy is stunning the tank, you'll see a debuff over the tank. You don't want to keep casting max rank Frost Bolts. You probably just want to hold DPS until this stun is over with. Otherwise, I mean, these packs are still really tough. They hit very, very hard. The healers will have trouble, I would say, on the tanks. And if one of these gets into the healers, there won't be enough healers alive to keep the raid healthy. Cro-Magus has a lot of different breaths. The only two that I'm really going to talk about is the Frost Breath, which reduces the tank's attack speed, so that means the tank won't be able to generate threat as readily. And the second one is Time Lapse. When Time Lapse happens, anybody that's not in the Time Lapse will get aggro on Cro-Magus. So ideally, when Time Lapse happens, everybody except for the main tank and off tank will try and be in the breath. Everyone will be in the breath. The only exceptions is maybe the main tank will be able to line of sight it, but definitely the off tank will need to line of sight it by running into one of these alcoves. Let's see if I can find my pet. It has a cleanse. Oh, that's the run I just had. What else does Cro-Magus have? He has a Brood Affliction. So I have Bronze Brood Affliction. So I need to use this Bronze Sand to cleanse that. Otherwise, I will have too many afflictions and I'll be mind controlled. You can't use the Bronze Sand if you are stunned. So be careful on clicking on it because you may end up using 3 or 4. The priority of people that need to have Bronze Sand are hunters to stop the enrage, the tanks so that they can keep tanking Cro-Magus, and the healers so that they can keep the tanks alive. So priority is tanks, hunters, healers for the Hourglass Sand. After that, it probably would go to the melee DPS and then to the casting DPS. Melee DPS is just strong on this fight because he actually enrages at 20% and he can frenzy during the enrage. So this is a pretty easy week. He's just doing Frost and Nature. Nature does mean the healers will have to heal more. You can throw a Power Word Shield on the tank right before the breath to try and reduce the damage outcome, just like Onyxia's Fire Breath, where you would pre-hot and pre-shield the tank before it. See, there's it. There's our timers. So Frostburn is going to be coming up in a few seconds. The other thing that DPS need to be aware of on Cro-Magus is his weakness to spells will change from time to time. So right now it's Arcane. So if you get, and now it's actually changed to Shadow. If you just saw this emote in chat, his skin shimmers, it's now a Shadow week. So if you end up getting a Shadow Bolt crit and a Nightfall proc and a bunch of Shadow spells land at that time, you may be the new tank for Cro-Magus. The only thing you could do at that time is pop a limited invulnerability potion to save your repair costs and consumables. So for cubbies, I'm going to have my pet. This is the melee cubby. You should be able to line of sight Cro-Magus there. And here is the range wall. You should not be in line of sight if you just take one step outside of the wall, 1 step in the wall. Make your movement time lower so you can have a higher DPS uptime. Think I'm not going to go over all the curses and cleanses. This is an important one, the blue cleanse. It needs to be magic dispelled from hunters because they use mana to cast their trank shots. If they don't have enough mana, the tank's going to be taking too much damage and it'll be a wipe. If the tank ever dies on this fight, it's pretty much a guaranteed wipe. We can't battle res the tank, and the other tanks are going to have a hard time picking up aggro because Cro-Magus is untauntable, and they won't be anywhere near the other pure DPS on the charts, we would imagine. Nefarian has a pretty hard first phase. The second phase is all about mechanics, and the third phase is the second phase, but with 40 undead elites coming at you that have very low life and can be easily killed with holy waters and arcane explosions and blizzards and rain of fire. The notable things about phase 1 is the chromatic dragon spawns are really big guys. They need to be picked up by the tanks immediately. They do a lot of damage, and I believe they also cleave. Nefarian will also do shadow bolts to random players around the room. So if you have any kind of shadow protection potions, that's very beneficial for the first phase, which is the hardest phase, arguably. There's also 2 different types of dragons. There are that have immunities. So like the blue dragon they're immune to frost. So mages would want to go on the left-hand side so they can do their frost bolts to the bronze. The bronze have a immunity to arcane, but we're not really using arcane mages here. So how this fight works is we're going to split the half of the raid on the left and half of the raid on the right. This will be the same left and right divisions as Razor Gore. So groups 1 through 4 on the left, groups 5 through 8 on the right. Just keep DPSing the dragons. Once you get 42 down, Nefarian will land. We'll need to have the tank, a couple of healers, and the shaman with Tremor Totem in his group to go in front of Nefarian to pick him up as soon as he lands. And just because the first phase is over doesn't mean all the other dragons are dead. You still have to kill these dragons in order to move on to the boss. They are priority over killing Nefarian. So I'm killing these guys out here because I believe they, when the dragons respawn in phase 3, they actually respawn wherever they died at. Huh. They said I broke my bow. I was thinking about if I need to unequip that for the hunter class call. So here I'm getting a healing curse. The mages and the druids need to always be decursing the tank instantly. The tank will also be getting feared. He won't be able to pop, what do you call it? Berserker Rage each fear. Looks like fear comes right after a Shadow Breath. Oh, it's a cast time on the fear. That's nice. Alright, I'm going to see if this guy can taunt. Oop. Okay, you go over here. Try and taunt this guy. Alright, so yeah, they spawned right on top of Nefarian. So wherever these dragons die is where the bone constructs spawn, and when Nefarian reaches 20%. I think also healers and range DPS, you can line of sight the fear by jumping behind this platform. We're going to have all the healers and mages and hunters stack up over here. For ranged warlocks, they're going to stack up over here so the infernals drop out of the raid. And you might be able to line of sight the fear here, or we can just stand far enough back. I believe over 30 yards you won't get hit by the fear. So stand far enough back to not be hit by the fear, but good enough so that the healers have range of view and can also get the melee and tanks. That's about it. There's nothing really else going on. Be more when ZG comes out and more when AQ comes out. That's all.